All right, what's going on, guys? Today is Sunday, the 8th, I believe, of March. Welcome to episode 2 of I Was Just Wondering. Yeah, look, guys, there's not a lot really for me to go over again today. Same as it was last week. Basically, second week of uni, just been getting back into the grind. Got to get used, just trying to find time to do shit on the side while doing uni, and then everything else. It's tough, but I'm getting back into the grind. I'm loving it. Yeah, I love uni, man. Like first year was shit. Second year though, you really learn to like love it, and you start to see where you're going, and that's sort of really starting to materialize now that I'm in year 3. So, yeah, man. Just getting back into the grind, trying to find enough time. But look, I guess I'll start. I was gonna do all this at the end and just say like, yeah, look, it wasn't a long episode. I haven't got a long one planned, but if you're going to uni and you're a first year student, best bit of advice I can give you is honestly, don't follow what your friends do. Like, just do what's best for you. Like, if you are someone who can do no study at all, study the night before a test and ace it, do that. But don't don't go out there and brag about that and then make other people feel like they have to do that too, because there might be people like me who are impressionable dumbasses who will listen to that advice and then do it and then fail courses. Um, so yeah, no, not to put the blame on anyone. Like, it was my fault that I failed, but yeah, like, just whatever you need to do to get right at uni, like, you do that, because yeah, like, you're the one at the end of the day that's going to pay the fees and stuff. So, if you're at uni or you're at work or whatever, just enjoy the grind, man. Like, every day's given to us for some reason. We got to wake up, thank someone for it. I guess, I don't know. You can thank whoever you want. You can thank yourself if you want or whatever, but I feel like every day is a blessing. So just get in and rip in. Enjoy it. I hope you're all having a great Sunday. If you listen to this, I'm recording this around lunchtime. If any news comes out that I missed, let me know, obviously. But there's not much I can do about it, really. I might mention it on next week's pod if it's important. But yeah, just enjoying the grind. Hope everyone else is grinding, doing whatever you want to do. Just, yeah, don't settle in life, man. Work hard and just, yeah, like one of my favorite quotes is, nobody cares, work harder. So, yeah, like, it does shit in your face a bit, but it's always just like, there's always someone chasing harder than you. So just keep that in the back of your mind, keep working. But look, yeah, that was fun. That was fun 2 minutes for like Joe Rogan for a bit. But yeah, look, there's not much to talk about really. I did want to get people on, but just like I said, uni and shit, and just I didn't end up getting that podcast out or probably published until Thursday. I had it recorded and ready to go Monday, but I just wanted to release it properly. So I didn't get that done till Thursday. I just took a couple of days. I took Friday off or Thursday, Friday off, whenever I got it out. I can't remember exactly, but I just took a couple of days rest to just because I had shit to do. So I haven't really thought about this episode. Took some notes this morning. It's very brief. It's not a lot of deep analysis, unfortunately. I wish I could put out more in-depth stuff, but yeah, I just got life commitments. But look, I guess we'll start with Super Rugby. I'm loving my footy right now, back playing. So I really want to talk about rugby, but I guess, a bit of a non-event this week for Aussie rugby. I mean, we went 2-2. 2 teams won, the other 2 lost. Brumbies had a big win over the Sunwolves. That was business as usual, as expected. Had to play that game in Wollongong, though, because of the coronavirus. So that was interesting. Shifted that a couple of weeks back. But, yeah, Brumbies I was at work. I missed the game, but Brumbies won big. So, I mean, there's not much we can add there. The Reds falling to the Crusaders by 4 points, though, was very disappointing because I caught the second half of it. Because I had work till 4:30, so I missed the first I obviously missed the first half hour of the game driving home. But the Reds in the second half and in the first half, I'm assuming because it was pretty close at half time, they were like matching the Crusaders. Like, I'm talking about the current Super Rugby champions. The Reds played at the same level as them, and you wouldn't even think that it was possible when the Reds are floating around 9th or 10th this year. So again, it's just showing that the Reds want it more this year. They're showing they can, but again, this week it was their goal kicking. They missed all of their conversions on tries. If they had got all of them, they would have won by 4 points. Instead, they lose by 4 points. That's it, man. Footy's a 100% game. You either got to be 100% in or, you're losing. And, you can do 99% right and lose, and that's what happened to the Reds. And that's why the Crusaders are so good, because, you don't hear about them losing games because of conversions and stuff. So that's something that they definitely need to go back to the drawing board with. The Reds do. Look, even when Campbell was kicking, I think it was the week after the Sunwolves win against the Sharks, you could just tell he doesn't seem to be a very natural striker of the ball. I think he can kick it, but it goes all wonky, and he just doesn't have a very good He just doesn't have a very good strike of the ball. Like it doesn't feel like there's certain kickers you watch when they kick it, it's at least getting there. Like you look at like Bowden or even Noah Lalesio, I like from the Elton Yantis, I watched kick on Saturday night or last night against the Rebels. They just strike it, they have the follow through, they have everything, and it just goes on target and just hits it clean. Jock Campbell hasn't really been kicking it clean, and it's definitely something they need to develop. Obviously, that's what they want him doing as a fullback. I think, take the pressure off James O'Connor and our number 10s or the number 10s or everyone else for the Reds that can kick so that they're not under so much pressure the whole game. But it's just, you got to improve your goal kicking and lineouts too. They were shocking in the lineouts. So look, Reds have got a lot to work on. They got a couple of home games coming up. This is going to be a massive stretch for the Reds coming up. Look, like they've had their tour of South Africa already. I was looking at their fixtures this morning. So I was saying to my dad, like, even though they're floating back down, Super Rugby's been really competitive this year, like genuinely competitive. And like if the Reds can just manage to string together a couple of wins in their home games and then have a decent enough tour of New Zealand and then win the rest that are a bit scattered all over the place, like they got games here, games like one off games in New Zealand and stuff, then really the Reds can make finals, but they're just going to have to work hard and just goal kicking, man. It's the 1%ers that are letting the Reds down this year, unfortunately. Like last year, they had all the 1%ers covered, and this year they can't seem to cover anything. So, yeah, really, that's the most disappointing part is that you match the champions and you just can't get the W. But look, Harry Wilson, again, I want to send massive praise to. I mean, he was instrumental, and I think he had a major part in one try. I can't really remember. But they made a break that really would have set them up and sealed the deal. Harry Wilson, like off a line out, just makes a burst. And then while he's getting tackled by two guys, I think throws an offload. And then the offload goes to Teniela. And Teniella's streaking down the sideline. The Reds bottled a bit of a really an easy try. But yeah, Harry Wilson, man, he's just got everything. He cleans out. He works hard off the ball. He can tackle. Like he's got like I said, he's got offloading at, into, and past contact. It's insane. I don't think we've had a number 8 of his caliber in years, and it's so impressive to see. I'm so happy that the Reds got him. But look, I guess, moving on, the Waratahs, they played the night game on Friday night, and it was abysmal. They went into halftime 14-13 over the Chiefs and then ended up losing 53-13 or something. Didn't score a single second half point. And, we need to start having a serious discussion that it's not the coaching. Rob Penny come out afterwards and absolutely blasted everyone. It was actually good to see for once. And Aussie coach not go, oh, well, I think the boys did a good effort. Like he genuinely come out and said that the words that they were using, he can't say in the presser. He was lamented. He was pissed off at the performance that the Tars put in on Friday night, and rightfully so, because it was atrocious. A win over the Chiefs for the Tars would have been massive there, because the Chiefs are now in the top 3 because they bonus pointed over the Tars, and a win there really would have, propelled the Tars into the top 8 or top 6, I think it is. And it just really would have cemented them. And again, it seems to be the same sort of issue. Kirtley was disappointing. Carmichael Hunt was a non-factor all night. Like just their forwards, some of the older forwards don't seem to give a shit. And it's just annoying, man, because you see guys like Will Harrison, who I want to single out for a lot of praise. I think he is fighting and scrapping so hard as the Tars number 10 right now. And he's constantly on the back foot because their forward pack gets no go forward. He's fighting and he's scrapping and he's working so hard. But he's just like, no one wants to work besides the young guys. I can't remember the winger's name. Hang on, let me pull it up on my phone. This is massively unprofessional. I apologize for not being properly prepared. But like, it's just disappointing because it seems to be that, there's been rumours come out that Kirtley signed a contract in France somewhere. And last time Kirtley signed a contract for the year after that Waratahs season he had, he just didn't care. And it seems to be the same thing that's happening here is a lot of the older boys, besides Michael Hooper, literally, I think everyone older than Michael Hooper has given up on the Tars, and all the young guys are fighting really, really hard because, they genuinely all have the spark to be Wallabies one day, maybe even this year, if they get if the Waratahs as a team get their ass into gear. So these young kids are fighting hard. It's just the old guys that are letting them down. And Ram Maddox was good. Maddox was good enough. Newsom was all right. It's just Carmichael Hunt was a non-show. Like, didn't even notice their locks. Like, it's just disappointing, man, when, you have a bunch of young guys on a team who are learning their way through are playing harder than old guys who really should be lifting them up, because, the worst case scenario here is that this continues at the Tars and we ruin a bunch of young kids, young promising Wallabies careers because the old guys didn't give a shit. And yeah, look, conceding that many points, like, it's just 37 or 38 points in one half is abysmal. It's atrocious and it's not acceptable. And the Tars seriously need to, pick it up, because they got the Brumbies next Sunday. So if they want to turn their season around, they need to somehow, not being cocky as a Brumbies fan, but they need to somehow get a win over the Brumbies next week. But it's not looking good for them. It's really not at all. I guess then moving to the Saturday games, Canes Blues was a really good game. What have I got written here? Blues scored 10 late points with the Canes down to 12 men. The Canes got a red card early in the second half and then 2 yellows in 5 minutes in the last 12, 15 minutes of the game. So really the Blues should have won. They scored 10 late to, get a good win. I'm going to say it's a sneaky win, because anytime, you beat a man with someone that gets a red card, it is, obviously assumed that you win, because going down to 14 men at any point, even if it's for 10 minutes for a sin bin, massively reduces the abilities of a footy team. So, but a good win for the Blues. They actually seem to be back this year. So, that's really, really good for them. And Saturday night game, Rebels, massive win over the Lions. Lions are nowhere near the team they were last year, nowhere near the team they were a couple of years back. They've lost massive amounts of players to Japan or Europe. That's the disadvantage of South Africa's free reign policy of, you can go wherever you want and still get picked. And that's why I'm glad Australian rugby hasn't gone in that angle, because it's hurting the Super Rugby sides for the South African teams. Like, the teams that majoritarily have Springboks, all the Springboks have left, and the teams that, don't have Springboks, they're the ones that are succeeding this year, or don't have a lot of Springboks, are the ones that are succeeding this year. So, yeah, it's disappointing for the Lions. I feel sorry for Elton Yantis. He's stuck there. He's lost his 9. He's lost his centres. He's lost a couple of his wingers. Like, he's lost most of his forward pack. He's lost Malcolm Marks, Quagga Smith, and Warren Wheatley. And just losing those 3 off the forward pack is massive in rugby. Those are 3 of the premier players at their position in world rugby. So, yeah, Yantis is suffering through it right now. He was all right. But look, there's not much you can do when your forward pack's not getting any go forward and, your outside backs are dropping the ball all the time. But it was an impressive win for the Rebels. Look, it was a whole team win, really. I can't really single out someone that was... Andrew Kellaway was very impressive. He's been super, super good since he come back from England, as most Aussies somehow are. You come back from England when you're a young kid and you get rejected at a Super Rugby level at like 21, 22, and then go overseas. It seems to work. We did the same thing for James O'Connor. It seems to be the old boys that are on top of the world go over there and then come back to get lazy. But yeah, Kellaway was impressive. Marika put on a good shot. The Rebels were really, really impressive. Forward pack's doing a lot of work this year. And yeah, it's really, really good to see. And then overnight, I didn't catch any of the games because they were on too late. But the Sharks beat the Jags, and then the Bulls scored 33 unanswered points in the second half to come back and thump the Highlanders. Highlanders are having a terrible season. I believe they lost their 10. Can't remember whether it was this year or before the World Cup, but that's hurting them. And they lost their captain last week to that horrible ankle injury. Yeah, it's tough for the Highlanders this year. They don't seem to have the squad depth. They seem to be going through the same thing the Lions have, where a lot of their boys have left overseas and they'll be back. They're a Kiwi team. It's just they seem to have, suffered a bit this year, a couple of close losses. Really similar sort of boat as the Reds, in all honesty. But obviously because of that, they can turn it around. It's still early days. I think there's 12, 13 weeks to go. So yeah, there wasn't really, that's a bit short. It's not much on the Super Rugby, but I mean, the games, they were good. Aussie teams played well. And yeah, I tried to catch as much footy as I could. But I guess the one thing I do want to talk about is that rugby needs a scrum clock. I've been saying this for a couple of months, actually a couple of years now, sorry. There needs to be something like the league clock, whether you have it count down and then the clock stops, or whether you, like my suggestion for it is have a minute run off the clock, and the moment a minute runs off the clock, pause the clock, whatever time you spend packing the scrum at the rest of the point, scrum clock, like the game clock goes off. And then when the halfback passes the ball out of the back of the ruck, that's when you start the clock back up. Or even when the ref just says like, yeah, you can use it now. Or when the ref says set, oh, then you can't really judge. So yeah, whenever the halfback gets the ball out of the back of the scrum needs to, because like Crusaders, Reds were down by 4, and the last 2 or 3 minutes of the game was just resetting scrums. And it's becoming sort of a thing. Like I'd almost say it's sort of becoming a tactic now, as if you're ahead in a close game, just knock it on purpose or even accidentally. Like this is the thing. If you're a defending team and you have a chance to win back the ball the whole time, that's what makes rugby so good. So if you get the ball and you're down and you knock it on, and then like you should have a chance theoretically, because of the way that rugby is, to win that ball back and score within 2 minutes. Like that's the beauty of footy. It takes like 10 seconds for someone to score a try. It takes like 5 seconds for a break, and it takes like 10 seconds for you to win the ball back at a scrum. So it's like legit, like 30 seconds to 40 seconds can mean the difference between no points and 5 points, and obviously a win and a loss in footy. So to have the end of these games, I've even seen games where it's 5-10 minutes of just scrum resets, or, you waste 3 minutes on one scrum, you have a minute of play, and then you have another 4 minutes of scrum resets, and there's like 9 minutes gone. It's just shocking. So we need a scrum clock in footy. Realistically, it'd slow the game. Like the game's they're meant to be 80 minutes. They already go for nearly 2 hours right now. But I'd welcome it, man. Like we need more. This is another thing that I said like last week with World Rugby that doesn't make sense with their rule changes. Like I lamented last week I got up last week against the defensive player safety to break down rules, like how they've made it so tight that you can't even look at what the offensive players are doing now, because you have to look at the defensive player the whole time. But we need, like, World Rugby constantly keeps talking about how they want to keep the ball in play, and obviously, more tries is more excitement is more fans is more money, and, more money obviously benefits the whole of rugby. But like, you can't say that you want to keep the ball in play and then be happy letting teams run 3 minutes off a clock because they're setting scrums. And I get it's part of footy, but you're wasting like so much time. And I understand, I play footy. Like I know that scrums aren't fucking easy and that they're hard, and that, you do need those 3 or 4 minutes of time chewed off the clock to keep teams fit. But like, let's be honest here. Who wants to watch a game where you could have a chance to win but lose because the scrum's getting reset? Like, no one wants to see that, and it's particularly annoying when it happens to you. But yeah, look, that's the rugby for this week. Pretty quick. I am going to try and, as I said, I'm getting more settled into uni. So I will try and do, and get deeper into my, analysis or whatever you want to call it. I'm definitely not a professional, but like of the games and stuff. But I guess another big thing that I want to talk about is rugby league's coming back. The NRL season starts next Thursday. So I guess I just want to do, I won't do a whole season preview. I wanted to get someone on to talk about league, because obviously I'm more of a union boy myself, as you can probably clearly tell, just by how much union I talk about. But I don't mind watching the league, but I just don't follow it enough to know like the ins and outs of everything. So I was really hoping to get someone on to preview it. But I'd say that'll hopefully happen in the next few weeks. But I guess I'll do my top 5 storylines. Look, a bit predictable what I'm going to say, but I guess number one storyline for me for this season is, can the Roosters three-peat? I don't know how many teams have done it before. I think, maybe 1 or 2 have, maybe the Bronx in the 90s and, St. George or some other team in the early 80s. But, Roosters are lost. We've lost. I'm a Roosters fan. We've lost Cronk, Latrell, and Tetevano. I know Tetevano's not a big name, but I know he was massive for us off the bench. So, losing Cronk's massive, obviously. Losing Latrell is huge. So losing those two, and then, we bring in Kyle Flanagan from the Sharks, it's going to be real interesting to see whether the Roosters can three-peat this year. I think they can. I think we've got one of the best coaches in the NRL right now. Cronk stayed around, so he's still floating around the team. it's just like, Cleary, if he stays healthy for most of the year, like losing Latrell loses a lot of X factor, but I just feel like, I don't know, I feel like I'm backing the boys to win. I don't know, it's not as much of a shoe-in this year as I feel like it has been in previous years, but I definitely feel like the Roosters have it in them to make a very deep finals run. So hopefully that doesn't end up on like crazy fan takes or something and I don't jinx them. But I guess second storyline, obviously keeping with the Latrell theme, is where to now for Latrell. I think that Latrell is one of the best players in the league. A lot of people that I talk to about him don't seem to agree. Maybe that's because I'm a Roosters fan and everyone like obviously clearly hates the number one team in every sport. Like, it's just a thing. Like no one likes a team that's super dominant. And I feel like that's what's happened with the Roosters on Latrell. And look, I genuinely think he's going to be a massive factor at fullback. I think first and foremost, he's an athlete and then he's a really, really good league player. I think, he's just the size of him, like the size, his speed, everything, I feel like it's going to be massive for the Bunnies at fullback, particularly since they've already got I think they still got James Roberts and stuff, do they? I'm not too sure. I should have done more research, but I apologise. But look, Bunnies have lost Sam and George Burgess, Greg Inglis, John Sutton, and obviously Adam Dewey left to the Tigers once Latrell come in to play fullback. So that's massive for the squad. But I just think Latrell is just... It's obviously going to be hard to adjust. Like centre is a completely different position to fullback. There's different defensive assignments and different ways you slot into the attack. But still, I just feel like if you can put Latrell in a position to get the ball into his hands more times than not, that's going to help you because the growing pains of him learning how to defend properly at number one is just going to be overrun by the fact that the Bunnies are going to score at least, I reckon they're going to score at least a try, just a try a game guaranteed from Latrell being at fullback, maybe even two if he's having a good game. Like, I feel like that's the sort of player he is. And yeah, it's going to be really, really interesting to see how he goes because obviously he had the perfect situation at the Roosters. He would have long-term been one of the club's greats, long-term been a captain probably at some point down the line. So it was really interesting that he left to the Rabbitohs. I don't hold him against him. He can do whatever he wants. He's a player. But yeah, really interested to see how Latrell goes now. I guess, and speaking about the contenders again, I'll keep it with the teams that I sort of know a bit of the ins and outs about. I don't want to go too deep and be like, oh, well, I think the Dragons are going to do this because I don't know what the Dragons are going to do. But I am going to say, can the Raiders and the Storm, are they still finals teams? And I think they are. Obviously, Raiders have lost Caesar, Leilua and Rapana. Storm lost Chambers, Curtis Scott and Brodie Croft. So a couple of big losses for both teams respectively to how they've, played the past couple of years. But I think, you look at the Raiders, they've brought back in George Williams and obviously they took Curtis Scott off the Storm. But the Storm have just, you don't get the years and years of continued success that the Storm have had without having a good system from the top down. And this is what I spoke about last week when I, said about the expansion team with the NRL and how they could support it is like, the Storm have elite management and they have elite coaching. And that whole system is similar to how the New Zealand rugby runs, whereas they just have someone else slot in and they'll perform just as well. And I mean, it is going to be a lot harder for, I think, the Storm this year, same as it is for the Roosters because they've lost key players in key positions over the past couple of years. But they'll just have someone else slot in and outperform. But just because you still have Cam Smith at the club, that is massive, man. And Craig Bellamy is a legendary coach. I think the Storm are right, and I think the Raiders are too. I'm really excited to see what George Williams brings to the board. Obviously, Caesar was good, but if George Williams can even just match him or even go just a little bit better, I think the Raiders are right back in finals contention. And, Leilua was a very up and down player. I really, really liked him. I liked his style of play. But, I mean, if Curtis Scott comes in, and Curtis Scott has had massive trouble off the field in the off-season. So if he can put that behind him and put in a really good performance, then yeah, there's no reason why the Raiders and the Storm shouldn't be back in the finals this year. But I think that's going to be a very important storyline to monitor. And my last one, are the Broncos back? Look, you speak to people. I think they have to be back this season or their coach is going to get fired. I think this is the last chance for the Bronx coach to really show that he can, do something effective with the team because he has had a decent enough team. He's just problem is the Bronx are too old. Like Alex Glenn, their captain, is a bit old, I think. Like I know, just Darius Boyd and stuff. Like, I don't know. The Bronx have brought in Brodie Croft, and they had a lot of issues at halfback last year. So I feel like if Brodie Croft comes in and plays well, there's no reason this Broncos team can't succeed. Like, they've got players all over the park. They've got Jermaine Asako. You know, you still have Payne Haas. And I know that these boys, Payne Haas and a few of the other forwards, I know Matt Lodge, I think they're out for the start of the season. So if, you know, Brodie Croft can come in and sort of, stem the tide and really just, you know, if they just perform decent enough, you know, get a couple of wins, losses aren't massive losses, early to start the season, and then they get those injured boys back. I really feel like the Broncos could be on here, and I really want the Broncos to come back because, you know, obviously Brisbane is a massive league town, and the Broncos are just one of those teams that you get across sports where it doesn't feel right when they're not in the finals or they're not doing well in the finals. Obviously, they got thumped like 58-0 by the Eels last year. So, yeah, the Bronx really they need to come back, and I think they can. It's just going to be a matter of like how well Brodie Croft slots into the team and how well they can, you know, manage their injuries because, yeah, the Bronx just seem to have been injury prone the past couple of years and it's really hurt them. So that will be very interesting to see how the Broncos go. And I guess the last one, I don't mean to be a pessimist or whatever, but like who's going to get the wooden spoon this year? I'm tipping either Titans or the Bulldogs. I mean, the Titans is just pretty self-explanatory. I think they're easily the worst team in the league. I apologize to anyone who's a fan of them. I feel sorry for you, honestly. But I mean, like, Jai Arrow's still there, but he's only there for this year. It's just tough, man. It's just tough. I can't imagine what it feels like to be a Titans fan. But the Bulldogs, I know, have had a lot of issues with the cap space, and they've had to literally release players just to be under it to not get into trouble for it. So that's obviously, anytime you put extra restrictions on a coach or management or like, you know, the people trying to build a team, like besides just who they want and stuff, it just makes more and more problems. And, you know, that's one of the things you need to eliminate, particularly in league. You need to get rid of all those problems if you want to be a successful team. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's anyone else you guys think will get the wooden spoon instead of, you know, Bulldogs or the Titans, let me know. But I pumped this one out pretty quick. This is 27 minutes. I probably will try and go for an hour. Sorry, not an hour. Jesus, half an hour. Look, I might have rushed through a bit of that. I apologize if I went too quick, but there's not a lot to talk about. I really just wanted to hit my points, get in, get out, and not waste your time. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this one. Look, NBA is starting to get towards playoff time. I'm going to try and get a few people on to talk about who they think are contenders and stuff. I don't really want to... NBA is such a debate sport. Like, you can have multiple opinions about it. So I don't want to, you know, just put mine out there and then not get called out about it. So I really want to get a few people on. Hopefully, you know, I'm trying to line up some guests. I am trying to line up some guests that I trust, some guests whose opinion I respect. So we'll try and get them on, see who they think are contenders, who's going to fall out of the race, you know, who's really shaping up to be good teams in playoffs. And NFL, Combine's finished. We're sort of nearing towards the start of spring training. So, NFL's heating up. I think the draft is in a few months, or maybe it might be this month or next month. So, yeah, it's really starting to heat up. So I will get some more people on to talk about that. But, yeah, look, really appreciate you guys listening. I just want to say a massive thank you for all the support last week. You know, obviously I dropped it midweek. At really, you know, like midweek, it wasn't really a good time to drop it, I don't think, in my opinion. I don't know too much, but like, yeah, just thanks for the support again, guys. Like, you know, I just really appreciate it. I don't really know where to say because I haven't really planned what to say, so this is off the top of my dome, but just look, like, I really appreciate it when, like, there's people who I may have not have spoken to or kept as, you know, in touch as I would have liked in recent years, who I can drop something like this and they, you know, share it or support it. And you don't realize how much I appreciate that, guys, because obviously, you know, I am trying to genuinely grow this. I want this to go somewhere. I know we're only on episode 2, but any support we can get is massive. So, you know, at I Was Just Wondering Podcast is the Instagram username, at I Was Just Wondering Podcast at gmail.com if you want to email the show. You can DM me on Insta. Look, comment on the YouTube videos, comment on the clips on Instagram, whatever you want to say. Just let me know because, you know, I genuinely want to get other people's opinions on this show. So, yeah, guys, I really appreciate it. So if you could, share this with a friend, tell someone about the show. If you like a clip, send them a clip. If they don't like the clip, and you want to relay some of their feedback from them back to me, yeah, I'm happy. I'm ready to take I'm willing to take feedback, guys. If you think this podcast is terrible or not good or anything, please let me know, because I don't mind, man. I want different opinions and different insights, and I want to run this thing the best I can. So yeah, really appreciate it, guys. Thanks for listening for another week, and see you next week.